Okay, I am going to attempt to videotape making this loaded tofu scramble, which is a newer recipe of mine. There are multiple tofu scramble recipes out there that are fabulous. I've just pulled some things together that have really landed for me and my family and people that I cook for. People have really been enjoying this loaded tofu scramble. It's got extra vegetables, of course, are optional. You can choose what you'd like to put in or not. Um, but I think you may enjoy it. So let's give it a try here. Okay. It's taken me a hot minute to try to figure out how to get this camera working the way so that you can see most of what I'm doing. I might be fiddling with it a little bit as we go here. But starting out, we have got tofu, of course, in a tofu scramble. This is just regular tofu. This is not silken tofu. I am not a fan of silken tofu in tofu scramble in general. I tend to really like just the regular tofu. This would come in a pack in the refrigerated section of the produce section, typically in a grocery store. You'll see we're going to just crumble this tofu into this bowl here and add several seasonings. So I'll let you know as we go. So I'm just taking this tofu that was patted dry and, or drained and patted dry. Or not totally dry, it's still, you can see it's still got some, it's still a little liquidy here. But, and I'm just crumbling it. So it's kind of like how scrambled eggs would look. And maybe I'll show you the bowl here after I do one of these. It's pretty simple. Of course, my hands are washed and clean for this. You can see it just kind of crumbled, and then I have one more of the tofu blocks to just do the same with. If you hear something in the background, we have our puppy. She's about 1.5 years, and she's sort of whiny. She's probably a little cold and wants to get covered up with a blanket, I'm guessing. And she gets tired this time of the evening, so she's probably just sleepy. She's fine. Okay. Very whiny, very sweet, very whiny. So here is the crumbled tofu, and that's that. Probably wash my hands here a moment. So you can just see that. Nice and ready to go. Now all I'm gonna do is there are several spices that go in this recipe, and I'm just going to sprinkle them in. So I'm gonna start with some tamari, which is essentially soy sauce, but it's gluten-free. And I'm going to, and that's just by chance, and it helps those people that are gluten-free. I am not a gluten-free person, but I'm just gonna stir that tamari in. I just sprinkled it and just kind of stirring it in the bowl to kind of get it incorporated on all the pieces of the tofu evenly. And then I'm just gonna take all the rest of these spices. So this is nutritional yeast seasoning that I'm just gonna sprinkle in here. I'm not gonna worry about perfection whatsoever here. There's also black salt. This is a salt that's often used, and this is optional. You do not have to add salt if you do sodium-free, or I'm sorry, salt, not sodium-free, salt-free eating, then you'd omit this. And so I just sprinkle that in. Black salt has a little bit of a sulfuric scent, or I shouldn't say a little bit, sort of a lot of it. So you don't use very much of it, but it gives that eggy flavor really well. And then I'm gonna put in, this is onion powder, about a tablespoon of onion powder. The nutritional yeast seasoning was a 1/2 cup. The black salt was between 1/8 and 1/4 teaspoon, so a pretty tiny amount. Then 1 tablespoon of onion powder sprinkled in, and a teaspoon of fajita seasoning, and I like the fajita seasoning from Penzeys. And 1/2 teaspoon of ground cumin. And then I add a teaspoon of turmeric. And that turmeric really adds that yellow flavor you'll see as we're cooking. It's really kind of makes cooking it kind of fun. So I'm going to just stir this up, incorporate it evenly. I'm gonna do this, and then we're gonna set this bowl aside while we move forward and cook some of the other ingredients in the pan. So I'm gonna start preheating that pan. It's a non-stick type pan. What I'm using is ceramic, which is sort of new to us, but we are loving it. This pan, I'm not an affiliate or anything, but this pan happens to be the Caraway brand. Starts with a C. It's our first pan of that brand, and we are enjoying it quite a bit. It doesn't have that non-stick coating, it just has a ceramic coating. So I think it's a little healthier to cook with, but it works fantastically, and just everything comes right off, no problem. It's a little heavy. The pan is a little heavier than some pans, so that's something to keep in mind if that's a problem for you. Okay. All right, so we got the tofu all seasoned up, and it's just gonna sit to the side while we cook the rest. You can see it's already got a little bit of yellow, but you'll see that yellow come out a little more as we cook. Okay, so heating up this pan, it's nice to heat up a pan ahead of time, and then add your ingredients. So I'm doing that. I think it's nice. I got it a little warmer, and then I'm going to turn it down just a bit. I'm beginning with some diced onion, and this is actually frozen diced onion that I bought. I do lots and lots of cooking right now for some family members, and this is one of the very main recipes we've come to. This loaded tofu scramble sort of became created as I was cooking for them, trying to create some healthy options for family members. So just starting with this onion, and since it was frozen, there's a little extra water in it. So it's gonna take a little, and it's cold, of course. So it just cooled down the pan as I threw it on there. So that's not ideal, but it simplifies things a bit. I also often use, instead of just onion, and one of the next ingredients is peppers, I often buy a bag of frozen diced onion and peppers all together. It's called Southwest Blend in my area. Lately, it's been hard to get a hold of. I think people are starting to realize how handy it is. I bought pre-diced frozen onion, and then I diced these peppers. This is about 10 mini peppers of like multiple colors. Like, I love color in cooking, so I like to incorporate as much as I can. And since these not really eggs, tofu scramble is going to be yellow, I was sure to put a lot of red in so that would stand out as well, because these were red, yellow, and orange peppers. I'm gonna let that get going just a little bit. Turn it up a hair, and we'll just let this cook for a bit. As you can see, I'm not using any oil. There's just no need for oil when you have a nonstick pan. And the biggest trick, this is a little easier here because there's extra water. But all the vegetables, onions and mushrooms, and you'll see mushrooms in a minute here, all have water in them. And so just keeping them moving in the pan is the trick so that they don't stick. And sometimes, depending on the heat and things, you may end up with a little bit of browning on the pan called souk, S-U-C, and that can be really good actually because it can add tons of flavor, and you can then add a little bit of like vegetable broth or water, or some people add wine or different things like that to pull up that browning and pull all that flavor into the food. So that's another option too, but you don't need oil. And the reason why I don't cook with oil, and more people are now choosing not to cook with oil, is a couple reasons. One is that it is so incredibly calorie dense, meaning it has so many calories per pound. Oil is one of the highest calorie density things, if not the highest out there. It's 4,000 calories per pound. So just a tiny bit of oil just adds tons of calories. And if you don't need it, and if you're trying to maintain your weight, which I am, or lose weight, which I am sometimes too, you know, my weight fluctuates a little, I definitely don't want to add more calories than I need with that. And the oil is really stripped of a lot of the nutrients. It's really just 100% fat. The healthiest option is to get your fats through other whole plant sources like nuts, seeds. There's some fat in tofu itself. There's fat in all plant foods, you know, small amounts of it and plenty. So we don't need to add the extra oil to be healthy. You can see, I'm seeing that this, if you can tell here, sort of, the onion is getting a little yellow, probably from those peppers. I'm gonna start adding, I'm gonna also put in some mushrooms here. These are sliced mushrooms, about 8 ounces. So there was about a cup of diced onion, or about one medium onion if you were dicing it, and about 10 mini peppers, or maybe 1 red pepper or something diced, and then about 8 ounces of sliced mushroom. And these mushrooms were whole, and I rinsed them off and then sliced them myself. But another easy thing would just be to buy sliced mushrooms. Make it easier on yourself. And I do that sometimes. Just didn't happen to for this. So, going to keep cooking this. Now what I'm looking for is I want these mushrooms to just start cooking down a little bit. They'll start sort of giving off some of their liquid and shrinking a little bit and getting a little more flavorful there. I'm also actually, which I could have done a little earlier, is I have some garlic here, some minced garlic that I'm gonna add. And another thing to make that easier, this is actually pre-minced garlic in a jar in the fridge. And it's easy to mince garlic and probably tastes a little better with freshly minced, but I've been cooking a lot. So I'm trying to find just a lot of food. So I'm trying to find little ways to cut down on time and make just the whole process feel a little less overwhelming. This is great. This actually I'm making again for my family members that live outside the home. And but this is such a good recipe. I recently made this for a gathering, for a brunch gathering of some friends, and it seemed to go over quite well, and several were asking for the recipe. So that's part of my inspiration to do the video today and get this recipe posted. Okay, so those mushrooms are starting to cook down. We've got the garlic in there. Now, one thing with garlic, adding it to a hot pan, you definitely want to make sure there's enough other like liquid and things in there that you're not going to be burning that garlic, because garlic can very easily get burned. So I usually save it until a little bit later, before, like right, maybe 30 seconds or so before I'm about to add more ingredients. Today I added it after the mushrooms, which is fine too, but that is cooking down really nicely. So we're getting really close here to adding the tofu. And then what we'll have left after that, I'll turn this, is, you'll be able to see here, we just have some beans, and these are optional, black beans rinsed and drained. And this is some, again, making it easier on myself, frozen chopped spinach that I'm gonna add right toward the end. And then I have some salt and pepper, you can add that to taste. But here, the thing we need to do next, make sure you can see here, I'm gonna add the tofu. It was pre-seasoned. Now watch, hopefully you can see this, how I'll be adding it. And as you see the heat, it must be the heat and the liquid and the turmeric, but it's kind of fun to watch this sort of come to life. It becomes a little bit more yellow as it heats, and I don't think I can explain it scientifically, but it's kind of fun. It gets just a little more yellow as it cooks. be okay here, okay. So I'm just stirring this in, getting it sort of incorporated. It may be the liquid, you know, loosening up that turmeric and allowing it to bring out its color. But as we go here, mix down just a little, you'll see some yellow coming. Oh, I'm starting to see it just a little. It might be a little, might be sort of subtle for you on the video. Not sure. But what I like to do and what I sort of showed here is, ideally, is to look at a recipe, get all of the ingredients, look at the ingredients list and get all of them ready to go. And just right there for me, so that I have all the pieces. I'm not running around, oh yeah, oh shoot, I forgot about this, oh shoot, I forgot about that, oh yeah, I still have to cut this. When things are prepared and in their place, it's called mise en place, when we prep our ingredients ahead and have everything just where it needs to be before cooking, it makes cooking dramatically less stressful. Just allowing yourself to slow down a little and prep those ingredients ahead can just have tremendous payoff and make cooking so much more enjoyable and relaxing. I'm still letting this heat some more. I'm trying not to, I'm not like just stirring super hard and like squishing up all the tofu. Just sort of gently moving it around. But I'm seeing that yellow come out. I don't know if you can see that. Hopefully you can see that. Oh yeah, there's more yellow. As I sort of turn it over, I can see some more of the yellow coming out. It must be something to do with the heat, it seems like. Okay. All right. There we go. It's really looking like scrambled eggs. Now, I am gonna add black beans to this recipe. These are optional. You may or may not want to do that. Just depends on what you prefer, but essentially they're cooked. They're just drained and rinsed canned black beans, and so I'm just heating them. And then shortly, I'm going to add the spinach and let that just cook for about a minute. And then what I do is use something called super cubes, SOUPERCUBES, and they are a handy little, super handy in the kitchen, and separate this into about 3/4 of a cup servings. This is about 8 3/4 of a cup to a cup servings is what comes out of this. And I put them, you know what, I'm gonna go grab those to show you. This is what super cubes look like. Look like this. They're silicone cubes. And what you do is I just put the tofu scramble in here once it's cooked and cooled. I'm gonna turn this down so I don't get it too hot here. And let it cool, and then there's a lid that you can put on, and you put this in the freezer. It freezes, and then you just pop out, you know, overnight or whatever, and then you just pop out each section. This size is the, I believe, 1 cup size, and 8 of these sections fits perfectly in a 1-gallon Ziploc bag or reusable Ziploc bag or whatever you may have. Okay, so I'm going to add this is about 3/4 of a cup of spinach. So now you're really seeing the color coming into play here. I'm gonna stir that in. And I really just want this to essentially initially thaw. In this case, since I'm freezing this first and then my family members will heat it up. So I don't need to super thoroughly cook the spinach right now and overdo it. But you can see all that color in this beautiful dish. I'll have to get a close-up picture. And I'm gonna actually turn this off a minute. I'm gonna go grab an example of what this tofu scramble looks like in the Ziploc bag after they've been frozen in the super cubes. Okay, so here you go. This is 8 of those sections, 8 of those almost 1 cup servings in one bag. So I have 3 of them, or 6 of them sitting straight up, and then 2 to the side is what I found really works to fit them in there. But it's just fabulous, super easy for my family members to pop out, throw in a bowl, microwave, or heat on the stove, and just very, very easy. Still so colorful. This is their favorite breakfast. I've made them all sorts of things, and this has been their favorite lately. It has also been fantastic for a family member's blood glucose. This breakfast in particular has been excellent for that. Another big plus. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this little loaded tofu scramble tutorial. I also have some salt and pepper that I can sprinkle in here. It's been a fantastic recipe that I'm really enjoying creating for people. And of course you can choose which vegetables you want to put in or not. It doesn't have to be exactly how I did it, but here is one way that's really working for us. So hope you have a fantastic day, and thanks for listening.